Now, I want you to imagine a father and a son. And maybe the son is drowning in a pool of water, drowning in a lake. And he cries out, "Father, save me." And the father crosses his arm and says, "No, not until you get my name right. I'm not going to save you. I'm going to let you die in the water, and you're going to let you drown right there." Do you see how petty and small-minded this stuff is? You know, if that's your God, I don't want anything to do with your God. Take your God and go elsewhere. Leave the planet. Leave planet Earth. Take your religion and your God and go out and preach to aliens on some other, world or something. But don't bring it here. Okay, don't bring it here. Now, how did Jesus address the Father? In Mark 14 and verse 36, and he said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take this cup from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will." Okay, the word Abba means Father. And if it was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. All right, Matthew 6 and verse 7. "But when you pray, use not vain repetition as the heathens do, for they think they shall be heard for their much speaking." And of course, what do you have in church today? You have the very thing Jesus said, don't do it, is the very thing you have in church. "Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," and everybody's saying the same thing over and over again. Jesus said, look, when you pray, don't do that. But that's another story. That's another story. All right. Matthew 6 and verse 8, "Be not like therefore unto them, for your Father knows what things you have need of before you ask. After this manner therefore pray you, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." You call him Father. Okay? How do you address God? You call him Father. Okay. Now, I have found it's a strange, religion has never, I've always been turned off by religion. I never wanted to be a religious person. Now, I have found that people love to look religious. And I want to tell you something. There's a big difference between religious and a truly spiritual person. Now, I like people who are truly spiritual. I like them because they're not religious really, but there's a big difference between the two. Big difference between the two. But I was one time I was at IHOP eating breakfast, and a nun came in, all dressed up in her garb. And I don't know, I probably shouldn't say this, but I say a lot of things I shouldn't say, probably. But and forgive me for saying this, but it's like, I don't know if I've ever seen a beautiful nun. It's like, how many beautiful nuns are there? None. But, and maybe Julie Andrew on Sound of Music. She was a beautiful nun. Okay. All right. But she was all dressed up in her religious garb. And I thought to myself, I looked at her and I thought, it would be a cold day in hell before I would ever ask her anything about God. The garb is such a turnoff for me. It really is. And I make it a point on this program not to look religious, not to sound religious, because my audience, who I'm trying to reach, is the common sinner. Okay, that's who I want to reach. You say, I've done construction work all my life. Construction work, you got common people. They're good people, but they're just, what I call, sort of like the common sinner. They're just living their life, but they're down to earth. That's the kind of people I'm trying to reach. And if I start dressing up in some kind of silly looking stuff, I'm never going to reach these people. Never. Never going to reach them.
Check us out on the web at isthatreallyinthebible.com.